Hello, and welcome to the Inside ACW podcast. Today, of course, with your host, the Psychotic One, aka Psychotic Kill. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another exciting episode, at least for me anyway, for the Inside ACW podcast, where we talk about all things ACW over the last 5 years. Of course, in episode 1, ladies and gentlemen, we spoke about an idea into reality, talking about how I originally came up with ACW and all the different pitfalls of first creating that and the thought process that went into how I even came up with the idea of ACW. So today, in episode 2, we're going to talk about the birth of ACW, aka ACW Asylum Championship Wrestling, and the main show, Asylum. Where to begin on how Asylum itself was created? So, the process is fairly simple when I look back at it, thinking about how we came up with Asylum. So I remember we were back playing, Siege, yet again. That's one of the main games we used to play a lot back on Mixer. And a lot of ACW comes from a time when I was discussing a lot of different things about the show with my partner. Of course, a lot of people know who she is, Willow. Shout out to her. She's been literally my ultimate inspiration over the last 5 years. I don't think ACW would even be a thing without her. Like, that is just the reality of it all. Everyone else has been inspiration. I love everyone's come along by, but Willow, she's the heart of ACW. I've said this to her before, and she knows it, but I don't think she believes it. I really don't think she believes that she is the heart of ACW, because without Willow, I had no one to bounce terrible ideas off of, great ideas off of. Coming up with unique stories, unique characters, everything, pay-per-views, you name it. It's all thanks to Willow. Without her guidance, without her love, without her, pushing me forward, I don't think ACW would have been born, as it were, So, as I say, I was talking to Willow while we were playing Siege, and I was like, okay, we've got the characters made. We've got this terrible arena, but Asylum Championship Wrestling, what is it? And I was like, it doesn't feel like much, does it? It just feels like this generic thing, and it got me thinking. WWE, okay? What did they do? What makes them special? What makes TNA special? What makes, for example, today, AEW special? Like, you think about them, you don't think about when you say WWE, you don't just think, oh, WWE. You think Monday Night Raw. You think Friday Night SmackDown. You think NXT. What you're thinking of is the brands. Look at AEW, you got Collision, you got Dynamite, you look at TNA, you got Impact. You've got these separate brands that are so important and integral, and they're the things you remember. They're the shows you go to. So I realized ACW, it needs its own show. It needs its own branding. It can't just be Asylum Championship Wrestling like we originally had, where it was just Asylum Championship and then wrestling written on the ring. No, not wrong, I was quite proud of that little design at the beginning, but I needed something different. Now I thought to myself, what can we call it? So I went through a bunch of different terrible names, but one that really stuck was the name of the show itself. Asylum Championship Wrestling. Let's break it down like WWE is World Wrestling Entertainment. Let's break it down to ACW. So we've got the initial, essentially what you'd call a company. Okay, so it's not really a company, but you gotta treat it that way, You gotta kind of treat it like, I believe if you believe in something, you make it a reality. So, to me, I had to convince my brain that ACW was something real, and it's something I wanted so badly to make real. So I was like, okay, how can we take ACW into something real? We need that branding. Asylum. ACW Asylum. Asylum is going to be the main show itself. Now, you'll see a couple of different other people out there trying to create their own ACWs, whether it's All-Star Championship Wrestling, or it's American Championship Wrestling, or, I don't know, Athletic Championship. I don't know. Yeah, go ahead. Take those ideas if you want to. I don't know, you might see, like, I've seen a lot of different people come and go throughout the years creating the things with the names of ACW, ECW, just a different play on the name. But I've never seen anybody really create a brand, And in streaming, a streamer's brand is themselves, essentially. But I wanted ACW to be its own thing, where it's not just me. I'm just a side part. I'm just a part of ACW. I wanted ACW to be its own thing. So now we have ACW as a whole. That's what the thing is. It's Asylum Challenge Wrestling. And now we have Asylum as its main show. This is where things got fun. This is where my excitement just hit the roof. I was like, right, time to hit the ground running. We completely built completely new arenas, redesigned everything from the ground up. I mean, everything. Now, don't get me wrong. Back then, my creation skills, they are not what they are today. I'm not going to lie to you. It took a long time to get to where we're at today. I know some people look at my arenas now, and I really appreciate people like, shout out to Billy Storm. Billy's, every time he comes in, he sees a new pay-per-view, or Devilish back in the day would come in and be like, holy crap, Keel, we love the arena. And I'm like, thank you so much, Back then, it would take hours. Now it takes 20 minutes. I'm not, okay, that sounds cocky. I know it sounds really cocky. But now when I've got the idea in my head, I'm able to do it so quickly. I'm able to put it all together pretty quickly because I've been working with these games, for the better part of 5 years, especially WWE 2K19. And when I go in to create these arenas, I know exactly what I want, So as I say, what used to take hours, I can now do in minutes. But I remember sitting down and creating a bunch of different arenas and different styles for ACW. I went with classic Monday Night Raw. We had the 2002, 2005, 2008 style arenas as close as we could get. I then didn't like any of them. So I was like, it's too WWE. So we got to create something unique. But again, you got to remember, we are restricted heavily because I'm doing all this on console. Like, I don't have the joys of PC. A lot of people out there today, a lot of phenomenal creators out there, like What's the Status, for example. I love that guy's creations. Or Jenna Sting, who makes some amazing, amazing arenas. I don't have what they have. I don't have the computer. I don't have the computer skills to create mods, to put them into the game, and make these absolutely batshit insane arenas that look so good. Honestly, guys, look up some of their work. What's the Status? He makes some of the most incredible WWE superstars you've ever seen. Jenna Stings. I'm not sure if Jenna Stings is still making arenas. I think they might retire like a year ago. But I think you can find them still on social media. I highly recommend looking up their work. Maybe even in the older games. Like, I think they did work in 2K23. Definitely look them up, guys. Their work is brilliant. But, so as I say, I didn't have all these things to create these arenas. What I did have was just what the base game would give you in creating an arena. Now, you guys know that is very, very limited. If you guys ever tried to go in there and create an arena for yourselves, it is extremely limited to what you can do. So, in my time creating my first arena, I decided, let's get unique. Let's stop trying to create what's already been made and make something unique, which created the original Asylum, the proper, true Asylum arena, which I believe was like the NXT flat board, the LED flat board, with the two boards coming out, which you currently see is similar design in 2K23 right now, and I'm doing the Faction Wars, more on the Faction Wars in a later episode. It was actually original, basically that kind of design, and it was, I think it was an Undertaker logo we went with. And it's like a fiery gates opening up and a silhouette of a dark figure walking through these hellish gates. And to really pull you into a asylum, I wanted to kind of give that vibe of an asylum, So it was almost like this dark silhouette was welcoming you in to the asylum, and underneath it I had written, "Enter the asylum." It was silly, it was goofy, but it was a great way in my mind to pull you in and welcome you home, essentially. Welcome the stars, welcome the viewers into the asylum. And of course, the ring as well was all designed in a very, like, the arena as well was designed in a dark way. You see it right now in the podcast, guys. You know, when you look at the screen right now, of course, you see the red, the blacks. That's very intentional, because I imagine in my mind, and of course my two favorite colors, red and black, so, you know, there's that. But in my mind, an asylum is a dark, eerie, creepy place. And that's what I wanted for ACW. You know, it to be this dark, brooding show. And that was how the feel was going to be. And that's kind of how I want to design my characters. So, for example, when you look at the Psychotic Kill character right now, there's, of course, an image of the original Psychotic one. This is back from 2K19. You can see, of course, there with the arms spread wide. I still love that design, honestly. I can't fault it. I don't think I've ever achieved it as good as it looks there, you know. We've had a lot of different designs of the demon. But that's one of my favorites. So, in creating these characters, I had to remember alongside, like, the darkness side of the asylum, I wanted to create every character in that dark way, you know? So a lot of characters, you know, if anyone remembers back in the day, there was a lot of red, a lot of blacks. We tried a lot of fiery kind of looking characters, you know, but majority of it was dark. We'd throw in, like, other elements, like maybe a couple of blues here and there, or maybe a green if we're feeling fancy, you know? But we wanted to keep it as dark as possible. The odd character, too, if it was requested by viewers, would have a lighter tone. But as I said, we really wanted to keep it in this dark tone. And ensure the asylum felt gritty, felt dirty, you know, felt dark. And we were so excited with all this design now, and it was like, okay, here we go. I think it's something like 2 weeks of non-stop working and building and trying to get this feeling just right. You know, if it felt right for me, I hoped it would feel the same for the audience watching at home. And we remember sitting there going, okay, it's time to unleash the beast. You know, we've spent so long working on this show, a good solid 2 weeks. As I say, I was working on this every day, and this is going to sound insane, but I would spend 7 hours a day just tweaking and manipulating different styles for characters. And within the arena, I constantly go back and forth, nitpicking different little details. And and so you look back at these designs back then, you go, really, Kill? Really? You spent that long on these? And it was terrible. You know, I mean, they weren't great. But again, let me remind you, my designing skills were not great back then. You know, I couldn't settle on one specific design. And so eventually the episode came. The very first official episode of ACW Asylum. And it was insane. Like, to describe how it felt after that first episode is pretty hard for me, because it feels like it was so long ago. I want to remind you guys, I've done over, between Mixer and Twitch, we've done over 500 episodes of ACW Asylum by now. Not including the Faction Wars. This is just ACW Asylum itself. You know? Faction Wars pay-per-views, we never count them episodic-wise. We've never counted them. They have their own specific things, like the Faction Wars, again, I will talk about that later on. It's its own thing. So it's not the same as ACW Asylum, you know? So as I say, we've done over 500 episodes of ACW Asylum. But back to that first episode. I can't remember exactly who was on it or what was going on. I do remember there was a championship match. I think it might have been the god-awful spray paint world title match and the inmate title match. I think the inmate title match opened the show. But by the time the show was over, it just felt right, you know? It felt like everything I'd worked towards had finally come to fruition, and it meant something, you know? Now, the problem here is everyone thought it was bloody terrible. The viewers thought it was bad. They thought it wasn't great. The commentary wasn't great. I think they all had this massive expectation that I'd built up over the last 2 weeks of what this was going to be, you know? I think I built it up in people's minds. It was going to be the next big thing. It was going to be the next Monday Night Raw, you know? It was going to be something that could compete with WWE. I think even in my own mind, I might have convinced myself of that. And honestly, that is a problem again. Another thing I'm going to talk about later on down the line is the ups and downs of doing ACW. And I'll be honest, the mental struggle I actually went through at some point with ACW. But this is all about the birth. So, as I say, we were going through the first episode, and in everyone else's eyes, it was a failure, but in mine, it was a success. And I was very, very proud of that first episode because it meant something to me, you know, and it was a culmination of everything, and it was right. You've got everything. Now it's time to put it all together. Now it's time to go out there and show what you got. It's time to make this new show a reality. Time to make it something, you know, and it's incredible to think that from that show, we went on to do not one, not two, but 12 pay-per-views. We followed the in-game calendar through 2K19 all the way with our own custom pay-per-views. Now, this one show, ladies and gentlemen, it inspired me. It absolutely inspired me to go, okay, well, we need something to culminate the stories. Well, obviously, how does we do it? How does other wrestling shows do it? Well, it's pay-per-views. So we created the first pay-per-view, Anarchy. Because what happens in an asylum? There's anarchy. And these little random ideas for these different pay-per-views kept popping off, you know? And to me, it was the greatest way to culminate every storyline you're trying to say. You're trying to tell. Because that's what sports entertainment is. You know, when you watch WWE, you watch for incredible wrestling. But you also watch for the characters. You watch for the storylines that are playing out. Like, look at right now in WWE, of course, you got Cody Rhodes looking to finish his story. You got Roman Reigns, the head of the table. You got The Rock coming back. You know, these are larger-than-life characters, but there's also a storyline going on in the background at all times. And I love that. I absolutely love that. So, you know, and obviously the big moments pay off at the pay-per-views. And so for me, ACW needed those pay-per-views. It needed those special payoff moments. You know, and it was so special. And thankfully, moving to Twitch, you know, we managed to elevate those pay-per-views, you know, for viewers, and making it sub-only. And, of course, that way, you know, you got to watch it, because that way it made it feel even more special, you know. And I've always made sure that each pay-per-view is unique, and that there's always a payoff for those big stories that you've been invested in. And I'm so proud of that throughout the years. And, of course, you can't talk about pay-per-views without the culmination of the biggest show of the year. The one show that, honestly, I think at this point, actually, you know what? I think it deserves its own bloody episode. I think it really does. That being my own WrestleMania. You guys know it. End of Days. Now, the first End of Days, as ladies and gentlemen, as I say, it could probably do this on episode. Let me know in the comments down below if you've got this far, ladies and gentlemen, and you want to hear an ACW, Inside ACW, of course, podcast episode specifically about the creation of End of Days, about how it felt going into that first episode. I could talk a lot about that very first episode. So let me know, guys, specifically if you want to hear that episode, and I will happily go into complete detail about End of Days, its creation, how I designed it, how I created it, the emotions going into it, because there was a lot. Talking about some of the matches that, of course, occurred. It was a massive night. As I say, there's a lot to talk about on it, and I think it'd be really important to do. You know, I might even just do an episode on it, because it was such a big thing. But we're going to wrap this up now, guys. Again, I'm nearly 20 minutes. I'm trying to keep these things down to about 20 minutes ago. So, of course, if you guys did enjoy this, give it a like. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Again, I should probably do this at the start of the podcast, you know, the usual rhetoric of YouTube and whatever. But, yeah, hey, I'm just rambling here, trying to get down some thoughts from the old times in ACW, trying to reconcile. I don't know how long this series is going to be, but we're going to keep going until we get all my thoughts out, you know. We got a whole final section to go with ACW. We got a whole last run in 2K24. We're looking to wrap up the story of ACW. And hopefully if I can pull it off, it's going to be one to remember. But, yeah, thank you so much, guys, for listening to me ramble yet again. As I say, if you enjoy this, hit that like button, subscribe. If you want to see ACW live, come check us out on Twitch, on twitch.tv/psychotickill. ACW is live every Tuesday and Thursday, 8 p.m. with pay-per-views every second Saturday. But until next time, thanks for listening. Stay crazy. Stay psychotic. And I'll hopefully see you live on an ACW show. See you next time, guys.